Welcome back, everybody. I hope you're excited to get started. Our first talk. It's amazing. I can see them joining here already. For me, hey, Tiago, hey, Juli. I was
Hello.
super excited to chat to them a few weeks ago. Spotify embodies a lot of things that I'm excited about. Music, design, and design systems. Yeah.
All the good things.
All the good things.
Welcome.
Yeah, welcome. It's great to see you again. Joining us today, we have Juli. She is joining us from New York. Is that right, Juli?
That's right.
Yep. Juli is the design manager. She is the design system manager for Encore Foundation, and she's got a lot of great experience. And yeah, having that call a few weeks ago, we were super excited about what she's going to share with you all today. A very good insight into automation, making those repetitive tasks, I suppose, more efficient. Juli, we saw that you were here. We saw you online yesterday. We're wondering, did you get the chance to watch any of the talks?
Yes, I watched the first 3 yesterday, and it was amazing to get to see both the wonderful content. I loved the balance of like detail and high level talks, and seeing the questions that came out of the coda. Like the engagement from this group was just so exciting, and I was so excited to tell everyone about it on my team.
Any favorite talks?
Yeah, I thought the data-driven decision making that was covered yesterday was really informative, and I especially appreciated that one. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah.
Awesome. Then we also have Tiago joining us from Stockholm in Sweden, right?
Yes.
Perfect.
Yeah.
But you're originally from Portugal, right? And did you move to Sweden for Spotify?
I did not. When I moved to Sweden, I actually joined a company called Ericsson. Maybe you've heard about it. Pretty big company. They used to make smartphones or like that back in the day. But then I moved to Spotify like after a year at Ericsson, and been at Spotify for almost 4 years now, I think.
Sweden is such a cool country. I spent all my childhood summers over there. So a really, really cool country to live in. And let me give a quick intro about you. You're an engineering manager at Spotify, also working on the Encore Foundation design system. And you have over 6 years of experience in design system. And what I really liked about our little session where we had is you could really feel you're super passionate about that topic. And it's so cool to meet people who really love what they do. It's not just a job. It's something that is really cool to spend your days and your hours on. So that was really cool to see. And I asked you, like, what is the one thing that you would like to promote during the conference, like an idea that really drives you? And you said that you really would like to advocate more for one topic, and that is having dedicated design system engineers in projects. And I couldn't agree more to that, because having a dedicated person for that in the engineering or development team is so valuable. And I had the luxury to have one person like that on my current project, and having someone who's responsible for like the front end architecture and everything, but also like having a sparring partner is so cool. And to really work on strategy and foundation and tokens, basically like everything together as a team, is really cool. And I think we still see a lot of teams for many different reasons where design and development are still very apart from each other. And I think that is a really good thing to promote. And what do you think is are the most the benefits of having this position in your design system team, or like in general in a company?
Yeah, I think this is my 3rd design system actually that I've been working. And like back in the day, it was something that you really had to pitch, to the stakeholders and to higher members of the company. And it was kind of like a side job. And it was kind of like very clear to me from the beginning that it's so much more than a side job, and you really need people that are just like full-time dedicated to it. And now, like all these years later, I just feel so lucky that we have like so much people just dedicated to build design systems. and that we're working at the scale that we are at Spotify. It's just amazing. And I think there is no other way we could have done it. Rather than just having this dedicated team, we couldn't not have done the things that we did and that we're going to show you without a dedicated team. So I think it's super, super important.
Yeah, awesome. So today you both will take us on a little journey in the future of design systems. And the future is automation, or part of it is automation. And I think that's really like the next big thing. And parts of that are already here, as we can see in your talk, because you have integrated some really cool ideas, strategies, and tools already at Spotify. And I think it's really an interesting way to revolutionize design and the design process or product design in general. And you will also share some insights, some valuable data. And I think like when we had the preview, we were both afterwards like, this will be so epic. We're looking forward to this talk so much. So yeah, everyone prepare yourself to be inspired, and please give a round of virtual applause to Tiago and Juli. And if you're ready, the stage is yours, and have fun.
Yeah, best
Thank
of luck.
you. All right, let's see. Can you all see my screen? Yes?
Yep.
Oh, lots of thumbs up. That's cool. All right, we're ready to go.
All right, let's go. Yeah, again, we're here. Really happy to be here. So excited to share. We're here from Spotify's Design Systems team, and today we're going to be talking about how the future of design systems is all about automation. So yeah, we were already introduced, but here's another slide for it. I'm a product design manager. I oversee Encore Mobile, Encore Web, and Foundation, and he's Tiago Catita, and he's an engineering manager. We both work on Encore, which is seated in the centralized platform area of our company. So today we're going to give a high-level overview of a few things, and we're going to be talking about what automation is to us first, because we're using a pretty broad definition and showing a bunch of different things. And then we're going to dive into why we needed to automate our systems in the first place, what benefits we get out of doing this work, and how automation might help your teams. Then we'll share a variety of demos that use different types of process automations and get into more about how those work. And then finally, we'll wrap up with some takeaways and learnings we've picked up along the way. And again, like put all the comments and questions into the Miro board, and I think we'll have time at the end to cover some of those as well, which is exciting.
Awesome. But maybe first let's do a little intro. So you probably all already know this, but Encore is a family of design systems that offer design tokens that are served by Foundation, core components for web and mobile, and more specific component libraries that we call local systems. So it's a system of systems with the aim to make Spotify look and feel like Spotify, and make it easier for teams to build cohesive, accessible, and localizable experiences. So Encore is a design system operating at scale. This is very important to understand. So to give you some numbers, we support 45 unique platforms, more than 2,000 connected devices from over 200 brands. And we're also used by stuff like smartwatches, gaming systems, car integration, and lots more. Small glimpse of what it actually looks like. There's a bunch of like devices and products and themes. And one thing that we aim for is coherence, not consistency. And we know that this is not a new idea, like many design systems talk about this. Things change constantly based on the user context, and we want to leverage that flexibility and optimize for whatever the context might be. We need the teams to adhere to our system, and they mostly do, because we offered a solid way to get this coherence easily.
Wow, that is a lot of complexity to manage. How do we do it? First, let's acknowledge some wins. Teams are using Encore quite a bit, which helps us get to the really comprehensive, strong level of cohesion you just saw. So that's a huge win. We have 99% token adoption that we track using data dashboards, and that's incredibly high. So that's something that we've worked hard on and we're really, really proud of. And our component adoption is also tracked and growing quarter over quarter for both web and mobile. However, if we look below the surface of that impressive 99% number on our data dashboard, we find things like misuse, where a designer or a developer might apply a background token to that foreground element of the lyrics text you see here. So the team does get the white color they want, but it's not using our adaptive tokens correctly. This could cause problems down the line, like if we want to make a big holistic update to white foreground elements across experiences in the future. Or a feature team might be using deprecated tokens that we want to get rid of because their team doesn't have enough time to properly go through and migrate all of their screens. So our deprecation cycle might take longer than we on Encore have planned for or wanted to. So let's look at some ways that we manage this scale and complexity.
So we talked a lot about automation. So Encore uses automation, but what do we actually mean by automation? So if we take a look at the definition, automation is the act of controlling a process by highly automatic means to reduce human intervention. In our case, this means we reduce the amount of work and the amount of time people might spend on a given process. That's basically what it is. But why do we want to automate things? We think about both our team of design system maintainers as well as our partners that use the design systems. This might seem pretty obvious to you all, but with automation, we want to remove repetitive work. We want to reduce the human errors. We want to increase cohesion, and we want to spend a lot less time answering the same old questions.
It can be hard to pinpoint the right problems for automation to solve, especially in the constantly changing environment that we work in. So we have to be careful because we don't want to invest too much time or over-engineer a solution that isn't actually helpful. So to help, we always pay close attention to user feedback. Our partners on feature teams talk to us a lot, which is amazing. We get a lot of gold out of those conversations, and we really get to see how people are using Encore in their day-to-day work. We measure the time people spend doing manual tasks, both again as us as maintainers and our partners using the design system, and then we identify recurring patterns that we might be able to positively impact. And we also track useful data and analytics to help us understand how everyone is using this. Okay, let's get into some demos next and look at how Encore actually uses automation. We use computational design to create adaptive tokens. We synchronize design and code as much as we can through our custom token management tooling. We also build Figma plugins to assist designers and improve design quality where we can't directly control it. And we have bots and are using AI, but more on that later.
So we mentioned before the need to remove this repetitive, tedious, boring work, like manually having to test color contrast or redesigning the same feature for many platforms, or even testing some new design tokens. We've heard the feedback from many, many designers and engineers across Spotify, and we had to come up with a better solution. Introducing computational design tokens. So we use algorithms and parameters to solve design problems. What this means essentially is that you have to edit a few base values, you apply lots of math to it, and then you get a bunch of cool design tokens. So the difference between manual design and this concept of computational design is that instead of having one design decision resulting in one value, we can now have one design decision resulting in many design values. But let's look into some real applications of this concept. So one of the first ones is a thing that we called Encore color themes. We use semantic naming to ensure accessible contrast And we have removed the need for designers and engineers having to manually check this. So the system takes up to 7 base values, including stuff like background and foreground, and generates a bit more than 100 design tokens. Yep, you heard that right, more than 100. And that's per color theme. And these tokens are all aligned with the WCAG guidelines to ensure AA compliance. So this is what it looks like. So on your left, you can see the 7 source values for a classic Spotify dark theme you're all probably familiar with. And that generates all of the tokens on the right. You might also notice that there's only one red input, for example, in the theme. But when it actually goes through the automation pipeline, we actually end up with 6 different red tokens. And these have slightly different values, and they are tuned for how the color will be used in the UI. That usage aligns with the requirements for text, essential, or decorative elements that are specified in the WCAG guidelines. We currently have a bunch of Encore color themes for our different brand use cases. And yes, besides green, we seem to love purple for some reason. So you essentially multiply these 100 generated tokens by each color theme we offer. That is a lot of design tokens. But the point is, the system tunes the colors to work together and makes them as saturated as possible within our set parameters. So you can see what's possible in this little GIF that's running on the right. So maybe in the future, we could have a pink themed Spotify. Who knows? But perhaps a more realistic example of the benefit of using this system was when we updated our famous green buttons. So once these tokens were implemented, we were able to update our button and brand colors across web, iOS, Android, and TV really, really efficiently. This means we could move from many different shades of green to just one single color, while still ensuring an accessible experience. Pretty cool, right? Another application of this concept of computational design tokens, besides color themes, is something we call Encore layout themes. We've talked about before how we use a manual process to adapt layouts. And these themes make this an automatic process. But to do this, we need to fundamentally rethink how we build experiences from the ground up. We build components that are scaled to fit different devices, platforms, and modes. And with only tweaking 14 base values, similar to what you've seen in our color themes, you get more than 45 layout styles, including things you already might be super familiar with, like spacers or layout margins, text sizes, icon sizes, and you can use all of this like to build your experience. So here's the actual layout theme generation, roughly drawn. So again, values on your left and are the input, and that goes through an equivalent process as our color tokens, and then generates a bunch of layout theme tokens. So these tokens have accessibility baked in, making sure, for example, that the text and icon sizes are big enough for legibility. We have like control sizes, for example, to ensure that we have accessible tap targets. We have border widths for focus indicators and lots of other stuff. So this is what it actually looks like to use these Encore layout themes. So you can see that regardless of the device or platform that you're using, whether it's a desktop or a tablet or your phone, iOS, Android, web, TV, or even car mode, this layout is adapting and is making sure that the experience is coherent across the board. The goal is to design once using these adaptive tokens and then easily translate it across multiple use cases. But now that we've showed you so many tokens, how can we make sure that they are synchronized between design and code? We don't really want to have these tokens only exist in code, right? Or just exist in Figma. And this is a very common issue we faced. So it was a very manual effort and really tough to keep these values synchronized at all times, with designers and engineers having to spend loads of time making sure they're using the right things. So how do we solve this? we made a robot and we called it Figgy. And this robot runs every time we make a new release of Encore. It essentially goes into all of our Figma libraries and updates all of our design tokens magically. So this basically ensures that every time a new release happens, we get everything synced at all times. But I know you all probably want to see demos. So just let's look at this in action. All right, so usually Figgy runs on a headless browser, but so that you could all see it and I could show it, we tweaked it a bit so that it runs on a Chromium browser instead. So what you're looking at is it opening Figma, logging into Figma, and opening our different files and libraries, making the necessary updates. For example, it's updating stuff like textiles or colors or even icons. If you notice like the terminal on the right there, it's showing us some information about exactly what Figgy is doing, including showing up some errors that come directly from Figma's plugin API, and that allows us very easily to debug any issues. We also can seamlessly add more libraries by just adding a few configuration lines to our pipeline, and we connect it to Figgy. Today, we have a little bit under 20 libraries in Figma, and they're all synchronized with Figgy. We're pretty proud of it. We think that's pretty cool, isn't it?
Okay, let's jump out of the terminal and back into Figma for a minute. The next problem we wanted to solve was designers were spending a lot of time on manual repetitive tasks. Either this took forever and was annoying, or even worse, they were likely to be skipped entirely and left out of the design process. So we built tooling to get Encore into designs faster. First, we offer a plugin to give fast, easy testing of non-English language text strings, as well as one for accessibility text sizing. These both get used during an early design QA process, so designers can be sure they're aware of how their specs will look before engineers build them. The third plugin helps us Encore maintainers to ship fewer libraries, and in turn makes it easier for designers to quickly apply our color themes to our components. So we care deeply about supporting global scripts and serving our global audience well. Spotify's used all around the world, and we want our typography to be the highest quality possible. Our team's responsible for that, so we take a lot of the pain and handle a lot of the thinking before the type tokens get put into the hands of designers and engineers. So Encore supplies and uses Spotify's typeface, Circular, in many non-Latin scripts, and we have a staff typographer on the team who makes sure we are crossing our T's and dotting our I's. Shout out Bianca. But to make sure that everything is up to Encore's standards, we've created some tooling in collaboration with our design technologist who sits on our design ops team. So first, we've got a Figma plugin to generate test frames for any of the 74 languages Spotify supports. So you can scroll down this long list of languages. We've also got a text expansion or a non-Latin scripts shortcut to really promote the testing that we recommend. This uses Google Translate to create a quick translation and loads the equivalent font from the proper Encore type style. So designers can ensure that their designs aren't breaking and nothing is being cut off if the string gets longer when it's translated or the typeface itself is taller than the Latin that they might have by default. And it's much easier and faster than doing this manually, for sure. You can see some warnings that come with the generation in these yellow bubbles, and that lets designers know that these translations aren't final. They're not meant to be used in production. The copy in our products has to go through a formal process with our localization team to make sure that it reads correctly for native speakers. So next plugin, our accessibility testing Figma plugin works in a similar way. This one regenerates the selected frames and applies the proper Encore defined accessibility text sizes to those frames. So this could be done to a component like we're doing on the accordion component here, or on an entire view with one click, and that will show the designer where the layouts are breaking or where text might truncate when it gets really big. So with this tool, designers can test accessible experiences earlier in their design process. rather than waiting for an engineer to ask questions about what to do later in the build phase. And since the sizes here match Encore's text settings in code, everyone in the process can be confident that their layouts and content will accommodate when a user applies a larger text size preference in their OS. So this one is our final Figma plugin tool that we're going to share today, and it's called Swappy, similar to Figgy. We like naming things. And we built this to make it easier for designers to apply their product's Encore color theme while, importantly, maintaining less tooling on our side. So when Encore first launched and first migrated to Figma, when Spotify first migrated to Figma in 2019, we started with a Figma architecture that generated components in every theme we offered. And this got really complicated as we added more and more brand themes. We were wrapping the components in a theme and applying it one by one, but we've iterated on that, and now we've created this plugin. So we only have to maintain a single component library per platform, and it's much simpler and faster to add new color theme libraries. So today we have one web component library, and it can be color themed easily with this tool in a designer's file. And you may have noticed that it's a little bit slow to run the first time, but once it's used, it gets a lot faster. And in general, we've gotten good feedback. This is working, and it's been a real improvement to how we deliver our styles and components to designers. So on to our next example. Our partners, the 400 or so designers and thousands of software engineers that use Encore across Spotify often need our help. They might not know what's available in our system, or they can't find the specific docs they need, or maybe they don't know exactly how to use something that we offer. So this becomes really difficult to manage at scale with our small team, but we want to help everyone quickly and at the highest possible level of quality. So this has led us to investigate ways of automating the support that we give. First, probably like many of you, we've integrated some simple Slack bots where we've gathered the most commonly asked questions in Slack and have written some replies that will provide accurate answers or direct customers to the documentation that will help. And we've got these running in our most active Slack channels. And you can see here that we use it for questions around where to find our fonts or how to contribute an icon. But we've learned that high quality customer support isn't a problem that Slack bots can solve entirely. It's a very rigid solution and it has its limits. So even these replies that we like and think work well will sometimes fire off if a keyword is used in a slightly different context, and that can be really noisy and less appreciated. So we thought, what else can we do to help? So we created Encore GPT. When we had Spotify's annual Hack Week this past spring, our team jumped on the opportunity to explore a more robust support bot. And so we got a group of 6 people working over the time of 1 week, and we didn't have any machine learning or data engineers on our team, so it was very much a learning by doing experience. And we trained OpenAI's large language model using embeddings and fine-tuning data that we pulled from Slack questions that our team had answered already. And then we also used this database of questions and their corresponding answers to test the bot's activity. And we're pretty happy with it, and we're continuing to work on it as a feature. So here is a demo of the Encore GPT, which is currently working. What you see here is a beta feature on our design system documentation website. And we'd also like to, we looked at ways to include it in Spotify's Slack eventually. So it would be like a Slack bot as well, but we haven't gotten that far yet. And as you can see, it's able to provide some answers, like some of this is copied directly from the doc site, and it's able to give us links of where to go. So it can come up with right answers for some of the common topics. We can watch it work for a bit and ask a few more questions. So we are asking the same thing about how to contribute an icon, and then some stuff about type. It spits back some info about color themes. And it's pretty good at parsing the documentation site and giving back what we need.
Yeah, I actually realized we did not put a code example there, but I was hearing like in one of the pitches, it also gives us code if you ask it. So it's pretty okay. Not perfect, but you know,
Yeah.
we're working on it.
Yeah.
All right. So that was the end of our demos that we prepared for you today. But as you probably know, building design systems is not only about building cool GPT bots or other bots. So we wanted to share some of our learnings throughout the time. So first, we learned that maintaining a design system is harder than building one, especially when you work at and operate at the scale that Spotify does. We can just easily add another design token, but when it comes the time to change it, that's where real complexity begins. When there are a million trade-offs and edge cases, how do we move forward and how do we avoid paralysis? When there are so many designers and engineers using what we make, it's really hard sometimes to feel confident in our decisions. Our changes affect everybody. It's so easy to just get stuck in this decision-making. And we often ask ourselves questions like, did I do enough? Or is this breaking change really, really worth it? We also learned that we're never done. The world is changing, and us having to support more and more devices, more and more platforms and modes. We just embrace the fact that change is really the only constant.
Yes. I want to leave this group with a final note saying that none of this would be possible without the close collaboration between design and engineering. And that's part of why we're both up here talking to you together. At Spotify and in Encore particularly, we believe this to be absolutely fundamental to our success. It's one of our team's superpowers. As you can see with the work we shared today, it's a seamless, fluid combination of perspectives that these two disciplines bring to the work. The designers are in the code, engineers are comfortable in Figma, and everyone is trying to understand the other's point of view. And that lets us do what we do so well.
Word. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Amazing. Not only a few questions, lots and lots of questions. Are you up for a super fun Q&A now?
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, good.
Perfect. Thank you so much for all these insights. So many cool tools and ideas. And I think one question that came is, what was the reaction when you introduced all those cool features and tools and the future basically to the teams using it? How was adoption rate? How did they like it?
Should I go? Do you go, Julie? I can take this one.
Yeah.
Adoption is always hard, right? Especially when you, like Julie mentioned, like we operate at such a big scale. It's like more than 400 designers and literally thousands of engineers. So, and Spotify, like we like to share our stuff. It's not only our team, like everybody's doing cool stuff. So sometimes it gets a bit muddied through the noise, you know, like we build something really cool and then teams either don't know about it or they don't like jump into it immediately because they're busy. So it's always a challenge to get them to use our stuff. And we try to do like cooler support tools like GPT to make them more engaged. We're always working on better documentation. We do workshops and roadshows. We try to get it a bit closer with them. And we always try to keep like an open mind and like Slack open and let just folks ask questions. But I think they're usually pretty excited with the toolings. And we hear from the other engineers that are not working in tooling that they wish they were working in tooling. So that's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. You mentioned something that, you know, people can get really busy. So perhaps this question is a personal question from myself to either you or Julie. With such a large scale design system, and I believe a lot of consumers, and you know, the maintenance, the governance must not be easy. You know, you must have to spend a lot of time coordinating all the efforts, and you are doing an amazing job at it. but how do you make sure that you still make room for innovation, that you still make time for innovation and building those toolings when things can get really, really busy?
Yeah, so I can take this one. Our team is lucky enough to have 2 hack weeks. I mean, 1 hack week a year for the entire company, but then our team also has 2 hack days per month. So we do save and really hold space for that innovation and try to build that culture through it all. So that's where a lot of this work gets done.
Amazing. Good old hackathon.
Yeah.
Awesome. And with so many design tokens, I mean, you said like there are really like hundreds and hundreds of them. How do you get designers to really use them? Is there like one hack, one tip that you could give other teams who maybe have some issues in increasing the adoption rate? I mean, your adoption rate was pretty impressive. Maybe you can share some tips for other teams.
Yeah, I want to take this one too. So I think part of what we do actually is really sit on the knife's edge, like a balance of enough flexibility, but not too much. Like we don't want to give more than we do. And looking at our token color set, like it actually isn't that much in terms of like everything that we serve, because we want to keep it as simple as possible. And we don't want any designers to really have to like understand what's happening in that robot emoji. Like they don't need to know. They don't need to know the detail. They cannot absorb it. So keeping things as simple and as straightforward as possible is one of our biggest challenges, because so many people need to think about this and they only have like 1 minute. So keeping it really, really easy to use. And that's where tooling really helps. But another thing that some of our feature teams have done with our help is hosted what they call like spec days, and they get a whole team, like the entire Spotify for Artists team, like a dozen designers building the tool for artists, will spend time, like get lunch, you know, make it a big fun event to apply color theming, and everyone will get across all the files and like do it together. So that's been something that we've really been trying to drive.
Yeah, just to add a little thing on that, like also when new people are joining Spotify, we also have onboarding programs, and Encore is really like built into those things. So like you want to build a design, this is the libraries that you use. So like we try to catch them in the beginning and just be like, use this, please, both the components and the design tokens and like the Figma libraries, etc. So yeah, that's a thing that we found to be useful as well.
Awesome. I really like the idea of having like a whole event of like using this really together. I think that is an awesome idea, and everyone can really maybe take that idea, steal that idea and test that in their company. Good one.
Yeah, getting people excited about design tokens.
Yeah.
And I think it kind of reflects what you mentioned before, and you had in your presentation about this collaboration between design and engineering. Yeah, super cool. Speaking of tokens, and I think I know this answer, but I'll ask for it so everybody can say, can understand. But you mentioned that pretty much everything we're seeing now in front of us on the desktop app, it's the result of Encore Foundation's, all the tokens, right? And there was a cool question here. Could you talk about the process with the recent design updates that you made to the desktop app? Was it easy because of these tokens? How did the design team or the systems team work with visual designers to achieve that?
Sorry, can you just repeat the beginning of the question?
Oh, sorry, can you repeat it?
Like you were mentioning the desktop app, like you're talking about them adopting like Encore?
Oh yeah, it was in relation to the recent UI updates. Yeah,
okay.
if that was made easier because you set a solid foundations with tokens.
Gotcha. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that was a big lift. We work very closely with them, so they're like one of our top consumers that we consider. Like we have top internal customers that are obviously more critical than others, and the desktop app is one of those things. So we work very closely with that team in order for them to be able to use our stuff, and we're always trying to build fit for purpose components and design tokens that they can use. So we're also like looking at what they're doing and trying to adapt our design system in the things that are there already, because sometimes it feels like playing catch up a little bit, but you know, like the world existed before we did, and we kind of sometimes have to look into the app and see like where can we help them, and just tweak our design tokens and our components sometimes to just and listen to their feedback. Sometimes we're just going to release a new major version in a few weeks maybe, and it's just because of feedback that the desktop team was giving us, and we heard them, and we're going to make those changes. So it's all about that collaboration, and we've been getting pretty good feedback from them. I think they're getting happier and happier with us as time moves forward.
Amazing. A design system is a product as much as any other features, I suppose. So, you know, hearing the feedback and iterating upon that. Yeah, definitely. Thank you for sharing. Do we have any more exciting questions?
Yeah, I think we do have some more minutes. There was one question that was also voted on is how many people are actually contributing to building these complex solutions, like the plugins, the machine learning, automation?
You know the updated number, Julie?
Well, of our team, yeah, we have, I think, what was it, like 28? Something like that. And yeah, we have product managers, engineers, designers, and the tooling is generally owned by the foundation team. So Tiago and his 2 engineers and 2 designers, plus Bianca, the typographer. So it's pretty lean. Yeah, pretty lean. I know the chat is saying, oh, it's so many, but really the work we do is a lot.
Yeah, I mean, you have a huge team. So that is like probably for a lot of people, like a whole different level. But yeah, that's super interesting to have some insights in like real team sizes.
When we were going through your presentation or chatting about the presentation a few weeks ago, we did mention, you know, it's cool to see all those tools for inspiration for sure, but then the process, you know, you obviously didn't get there magically. And there is a question here from someone asking, what would you have done differently at the start of the algorithm project, if there's anything or any learnings that you could share?
Good question. What have we been done? We actually wrote an article, like we put it on the Miro. There's an article about things that we've learned. It's like 5 things. Like I recommend everybody, if you haven't read it, just go there and read it. But specifically about the algorithms, I think is just the product marketing part, internal product marketing. I think that's the part that we're still we probably should have marketed better and do more demos, more roadshows, more workshops with the feature teams, you know? Because as I said before, like Spotify is so big and we're all doing like cool, innovative stuff. And folks just don't have time to listen to all of the things that are happening, right? It's very hard to keep up with everything. So I would say if I would change one thing looking back, is like make sure that when we build these things, we really sell it in a better way, like internally. We become like little salespersons and advocates of the design system and like these methods. I think we could have done a bit more on that. I don't know if Julie agrees or if you have any other
Yeah, I have another one. Definitely agree with all of that for sure. The other thought I have is that when we first built all of that, we were very focused on serving the org as it was. So we were looking at platforms and platform teams as our big customers. And now we're moving to a way of working and way of thinking that's much more cross-platform. So trying to look a lot more broadly and kind of build things that can work across a multitude of surfaces.
Ooh, awesome. I have one more question. From all the tools and ideas you shared today, like what is your personal favorite one? Where do you see the most benefit for the org, or what was the most fun to create?
Should I go first? I think I pretty much, one of my personal favorites is Swappy, like this thing. I think this was like a hack project that we did like last Christmas. And it was just like an idea, like, could we actually do this, like change themes on the fly? And we started just playing around with it. And like, it was very cool to see engineers and designers just being like very excited about it. We could do this, we could do this, we could do this. And then I think we shipped that in like a few weeks. Like it was very interesting to see idea becoming live very quickly. because people were very excited and everybody jumped on board. So you get like designers designing the interface of the plugin, and then engineers like coding it, listening to the events of Figma and trying to figure that out. I think that one was pretty cool. It's like a recent one in my mind, and I think that was, yeah, that's a really cool one. I don't know, Julie, what's your favorite?
Yeah, putting this talk together made me really appreciate the Figgy token synchronization, because it made me recognize how much work we could be doing if we didn't have this in place, and just the nightmares of being out of sync. I know, yeah, it just opened up a like can of worms that I had to think about.
Awesome. It's such a great opportunity to give a talk like this, to look back on your work, isn't it? That is, I think, a very good message to motivate more people to write blog articles, like you just mentioned, the one that you have published, to give public talks. That is so cool, to also for yourself to reflect on what you've been doing all year long, right?
Definitely, 100%.
We have a couple more minutes. Is it okay to take another question? Are you up first? This one is another personal, it's a question for myself. I'm really involved with DesignSystems, and I have been for a while, but I also am a huge advocate for web accessibility. And I know that a lot of the work that you've been doing with, you know, the token work and a lot of the tooling, even the one that you showcased today was amazing. It has a huge focus on improving the accessibility of the app. And a lot of companies, it might be a bit tricky to get the company to, I guess, invest in prioritizing accessibility, digital accessibility. I was wondering if you had any tips on how you might help that to get across the line, get more support internally. If any part of your experience you had to do this type of, I guess, selling internally for this to get prioritized.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're really lucky because our team is so passionate about it. Another one of our engineering managers, Sean Bent, used to work for BBC, where they have such a like history of this advocacy, and that really has like flourished in our team. So we've been a part of a big process to help the org spin up a designated accessibility team. So now we work closely within the platform mission, right next to a team that has an iOS accessibility engineer, an Android one, a web one, a program manager, like a whole like glorious set of passionate people who can help us tell the story with the org. And a lot of it has been about, I mean, since I'm a designer, I'm more, maybe tuned to the empathy building side and like selling the user-centered design approach. So we've done a lot of work telling those stories, but then also just the like breadth of people that we can serve better, and the amount of scale that helps us reach, I think, has been impactful. Tiago, any thoughts?
No, I think you said it all. I think Sean would be proud. He would be so happy to talk about accessibility here. He's been a very, very big driver of it. Yeah, I think somebody said it in the chat, like accessibility is part of design, right? That's it. Like we just built it in everything we do, and we just keep that mindset. And also it's good to see like the engineers and the designers really seeing that if the components have accessibility built in, it's also another reason for them to use it, right? Like they don't have to build it themselves. And once you realize that, it's another good reason to use the design system.
Definitely. Amazing.
Awesome.
Yeah, we thank them for joining us today. Yeah, it's been amazing. Thank you so much for an epic presentation and for taking the time to answer so many questions.
Yeah, there are a few more in the Miro board, and you also put some resources on there. So yeah, the mentioned blog article, and yeah, thank you so much for being here today. It was awesome.
Yeah, we loved it.
Yeah, so fun.
Thank you so much
for having us.
We enjoyed the rest of the talk.
Will do.
Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.